we are going to be starting a three-part series entitled, Who Do You Say That I Am? We're going to be looking at what the world says about Jesus and what the Bible says about Jesus. We're going to be really discussing who Jesus is. We're going to be looking at what that means to us and why it's so important. And we're going to be looking at a passage out of Matthew that it's one of the most revealing, one of the most epic, possibly the greatest conversations that's ever been recorded in all of history. So we're not going to set the bar too high here. And it's going to show this conversation has the most important question that's ever been asked on earth. And it has the most revealing, most truthful, most crystal clear answer that could possibly be given to that question. And if there's one thing that you should know about me, if there's one thing that if you know me, you should know about me, is that I love to talk. Not just blah, 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 like I don't just, love to get on the phone and just chat it up. But I love a good conversation. I love a good conversation. To me is one of the best, most life-giving things that I could ever do in all of this life. I love to connect with somebody on a level that is real and personal. And we've all had one of those conversations where you feel like you could talk to this person forever, these people forever. And I love that. That's such a big part of who I am. And this passage that we're about to read in Matthew, it excites me because it is one of the most dynamic things that we could ever read. It's one of the most amazing conversations and glimpses into the character and life of Jesus and his followers, and his followers are including us, if you're a Christian, that he's ever given us. It's exciting to me. So Matthew 16:13-17. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered him and said, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." This conversation it's like a sneak preview from Jesus. It's like a movie trailer from Jesus, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. But I want to kind of open up what the significance of this is and talk a little bit more about when he's taking his disciples to Caesarea Philippi, which is about 150 miles outside of Jerusalem. At this point in time in Jesus' ministry, he was a rock star. He was Jesus Christ superstar. He was a villain. He was adored. I mean, he was all of these things. And so around him, there was like a circus-like setting. I mean, you follow a band around. Bands that are famous have many followers, and their concerts are crazy, right? And that's how it was for Jesus at this point in time. He's very close to what he knows to be the end of his ministry. His time on earth is coming to an end, and he wants to get his disciples away because he wants this conversation to be without distraction. He doesn't want any of the hoi polloi to get in the way of what he's going to tell his disciples. And so he takes his disciples up to Caesarea Philippi, which is north of Jerusalem. And there's a couple reasons that scholars agree why he did this. Number one was to get away. It was to get some distance between him and Jerusalem. And another reason is because Caesarea Philippi was an area that many, many pagan gods were worshipped. The Greeks believed that the god Pan, the god of nature, resided in a cavern near there. And so Jesus takes his disciples into this setting. Jesus was very aware of his settings. Jesus was very dramatic. He was a very dramatic teacher. He used stories, he used illustrations, he used metaphors, and he used his circumstances and his surroundings to get his point across. And so in this most dramatic conversation that he's having with his disciples, he brings them to Caesarea Philippi because he wants this point to be driven home. and he asks them, who does the world say that I am? What are people saying about me? And I love this because Jesus isn't afraid of what people are saying about him. I think there's a conception sometimes that Jesus is this meek, mild, oh, don't say this about Jesus. He can't handle it. Jesus is like, bring it on. What are they saying about me? It's a picture of him just being like, whatever. People are going to say whatever they're going to say. And so the disciples are like, well, some people say you're John the Baptist. Some people say you're Elijah. Some people say you're a prophet. Some people think you're a maniac. The Bible doesn't say that, but they're probably just like, wow, here, let's unload on you what people are saying about you. And so, they begin to tell Jesus all of these things. And then he asks them straight up. He's looking them right in the eye and he says, okay, but who do you say that I am? And Peter, he's one of my top 5 favorite characters in the Bible. He pipes up and he says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus, I can just imagine Jesus' face just radiating and beaming and saying, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. Flesh and blood hasn't revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. In that moment, Jesus understood that they got it. This is a conversation that Jesus has with his followers. And at this point in time, it's his 12 disciples. But Jesus is having this conversation with us. And not just his followers. This is a conversation that every single person, living and dead, has ever had and will ever have. Anybody that's ever been or ever will be, and in the here and now, we're all going to have this conversation with Jesus. You're going to have this conversation with Jesus. I'm having this conversation with Jesus. Jesus is asking us, who do you say that I am? Because he doesn't so much care about what we know about him. Jesus is passionate about us knowing him. He's given his life for us to know him. And it's important because Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father but by me. If we don't know Jesus, we don't get to the Father. And I'm going to expand on this in the next segment. But in that moment with Peter revealing, you're the Christ, the Son of the living God, Jesus says, they get it. My work will carry on, even after I'm gone, because these guys, they get it. They understand that I'm not just another person. See, the world tries to define Jesus. Religion tries to define Jesus. Culture tries to define Jesus. We hear that he was a prophet. He was a good man. He was a wise teacher. He was a crazy heretic. He was irrelevant. Jesus, there was no Jesus. He was my homeboy. Jesus is my homeboy. Hey, yeah, he comes over and we play Madden and we smoke bongs together. And then he goes home. And, some people think that Jesus is their genie, their personal daddy Warbucks. Jesus, I need a new car. Poof! And Jesus is like, yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that. Because that's why I lived, to give you a new car. But the point about this conversation that Jesus wants us to understand, knowing about him and knowing him are poles apart. They could not be more apart from each other. And how we answer that question determines how we spend our lives here and how we spend our lives in eternity. So Jesus is asking you today, who is he to you? He's saying to you personally, who am I? Who do you say that I am? Is he an idea? Is he a cool guy? Is he, irrelevant? Are you not sure about who Jesus is? Or do you know and are being changed daily by the life and the words of Jesus Christ? Because like I said, like he said, he is the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father but through him. If we don't know him, we can't walk through that door. So I ask you today, who do you say that Jesus is? And what I encourage you to do is, in the comments under this video, who is Jesus to you? And don't censor yourself. Be bold. Be honest. Who do you say that Jesus is? And we'll talk more about this.